This is absolutely
this is
remarkable. I
Atlantic
don't need to
Crossroads
explain, I
table.
guess, but it's interesting to know how it actually happened and where it came from. I here at this show in this particular spot, something like 20 or 25 years ago, a dealer came by, somebody I know, uh, from South Carolina, and he is a military dealer, but he doesn't really deal in Russian stuff much. And he said, "I have something that might interest you." And I said, "What kind of stuff is it?" And he said, "Well, it's maps." And I was like, "Maps." It was German maps.
Okay.
Oh, even worse, German maps. What do they mean, German maps? He said, "Well, yeah, but they're German maps of Stalingrad." Well, that got my attention.
Okay.
And he had something like 14 or 13 of them. All came from the same place, from an estate of an American general who fought in Europe in World War II. And apparently got into, I guess, Hitler's headquarters or wherever he got the stuff that he got. There were a lot of papers, mostly US papers, his medals, his whole life story, nothing Russian whatsoever, nothing related to Eastern Front, except for the Stalingrad maps. And the dealer who bought his items from his estate had no interest in militaria, and certainly not in maps related to Russia. So obviously I bought all the maps, and this is one of them that just came out of a collection of somebody who bought it from me years and years ago, and unfortunately passed away. So his family sold out the collection, and I got this map once again. But I tell you, ever since that time that I had this several maps, all of them of Stalingrad. Some of them were very schematic. Some of them were extremely detailed. Some of the city proper, like what we have here, it's the actual city. Some of the surrounding areas, larger areas. One or two were actually Soviet maps that were repurposed by the Germans. Repurposed, meaning they would put German names, for the city, for the towns, for the little villages, for locations.
Yeah.
And not all of them, but majority of them had markings. And one of the maps, not this particular one, but another one, was marked to the chef.
The chef.
Chef. I would never.
The cook.
The chef. And the chief.
Oh, the chief.
The chief.
German chef.
It's chief.
Okay.
Not the cook. Exactly. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't pay any attention to it. The person who had the maps had no idea. And I'm sure the general who originally owned the maps didn't have any idea. But the way,
The commander of,
well, no, I think the way that they called Hitler in his very close circle was chief. And only few people in his immediate surrounding would be allowed to do that. And it was very...
After 1943, I'm pretty sure he had no use of a map of Stalin.
No, certainly. He wouldn't want to see it.
Too early yet?
I'm sorry?
Too soon? Yes.
Yes, too soon, yeah.
What are the outline purple? Is that
The grid. Oh, you mean which ones?
Oh, in
like
purple.
this stuff with
Oh,
the,
this stuff? No, they're just marking out the specific locations that interest them, like point P, whatever point, they have code names for them.
Right.
And you can recognize the factory, the barricade, all the famous locations in Stalingrad that were fought over. They're marked here. So my point is, they were all made very professionally, and all of them were from the period of the battle, and day by day, including there were just a couple of them that were after the Soviet counteroffensive already started. You could see the chaos. You could see that they didn't know where the units were. It was all disjointed.
City workshops. So that's probably an engineering type area.
Oh, wow.
Wasserwerk, so that's the waterworks.
Oh, you read German?
A little bit. Not a lot. Bahnhof.
Oh,
Bahnhof,
Stalingrad, so that's
station.
train station.
Main train station.
And that's, that makes sense.
There should be two.
Well, that says
Stalingrad 1 and Stalingrad 1.
One,
Two of them.
Bahnhof, Stalingrad.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Jawohl.
Wow.
And this is the
Absolutely
Flieger.
fascinating.
So that's the airport. That's
Oh, the
obvious.
airport.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that's
Oh,
a Flie-
that's right, the airplane.
Fliegerschule. So that's a flying school.
Oh, flying school. Okay.
Ober Kassen. Yeah, I'm not sure what
Yeah,
that
no,
is.
that's beyond my very limited.
Heerschlager. So that's the army base.
Yeah.
Kazarin
Here
would be
is
Tsaritsa. Kazarin refers to Tsarina, and that
Yeah.
that's the old name of the city.
Oh wow.
Before Stalingrad, it was it had the original
That's
name.
the king.
Stalingrad
Yeah.
was the new name after the Bolsheviks took over.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Of course, because Stalin.
Yeah.
But it was
Barakadi.
Ekaterinodar before.
Rota Barakadi, so red barricade.
Wow.
Krasnaya Barakadi.
Oh, good stuff. And $3,500.
3,500, I think, is
3,500.
reasonable. I mean,
Scarce. One of a kind.
go find
So
another
cool.
one.
Really cool.
Yeah, beautiful. One of a kind, right? Basically.
Each one of them was different.
Yeah,
From that
yeah.
collection, not two of them were the same.
No, no,
and they
no
were
two are
pretty,
alike.
just pretty widely dispersed. The battle, as you know,
Yes.
took a long time. There were none of them from December, from the tail end of it, from December or January of 1943 or December of 1942. But for sure, there were some, at least I think two, that were after the Soviet counteroffensive, and majority were just before. So it's the most
Beautiful
interesting
condition.
period in there.
Yeah, beautiful condition.
John, you want to know something else? These folks must have seen, should have seen it.
Yeah.
They repurposed the old German map
Uh-huh.
to print this one. If you look at the back,
Okay.
and let me see if I can make it visible.
Let's take a look at the back.
It's a German map
I see.
of western area of Russia
Oh, I see. I
that
see.
they just repurposed
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
need this map anymore,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they
yeah.
were in need of maps of Stalingrad.
Yeah, they used the paper.
They
same
used the paper. Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God.
just convenient.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Wartime expediency.
So generals would have poured over this.
I think Hitler might have poured over it because all came from
No
the same place, and one of them
kidding.
had markings that only few people would understand. There was no attempt to promote it as such.
Yes.
It wasn't. There wasn't any extra money, but it did say to the. It sounds like chef. It's really chief.
No, it's chief, yeah,
It's
yeah.
really chief.
Of course, the German word
and
for
that's
chief.
how Hitler was referred to by his very close circle of
There you
confidence in his headquarters. Nobody else would even know that he was referred this way. So
If you want a
So-
map in your collection, this is it,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because you can buy so many other maps for a few hundred
Yeah,
bucks.
but to put it on your wall in your
Yes.
cave
And it's not that big.
and have other artifacts, but what can be a
Yes.
better backdrop for a
It's
military
displayable.
collection?
That's right. Wow, beautiful.
So I thought I would bring this up because it's just so unusual and so wonderful.
Excellent. All right. All right, Igor, what else do we have today?
Well, I got this award that I was describing for the website. It's not there yet. And as I pulled it out of the box, it seemed just like a regular Order of the Red Banner.
Okay.
Nothing so special about
Okay.
it. What attracted my attention is the name of the recipient. And that was obviously a Jewish name. And you could tell it's almost German-sounding name or close. And almost invariably, when there's a name like that, it's a recipient of Jewish ethnicity. So that was interesting. And sure enough, in his Russian papers, his nationality is referred to as Jewish. But then, as I was typing it up and looking at the papers and looking at the map, I was going, oh wow. And Vlad was sitting right next to me. I was doing it while I was sitting in the hotel room. And he was saying, I haven't heard so many vows in such a short space of time. I'll explain why.
It's a record-breaking number of wows.
Yeah.
From the
So
proprietor of
the reason for the vows was that, first of all, it turned out this was for Stalingrad. That became obvious almost immediately. The red banner for Stalingrad.
Yeah.
It was not just for Stalingrad, but it was for the counteroffensive and for the very beginning of it.
Wow.
not when they already had the Germans in the wise, not when they eradicated them. The final stage of the Battle of Stalingrad was Operation Ring, and a lot of awards were issued for that, for the victorious, easy, sort of part of it. Nothing was easy about it, but at that point, it was already decided. It was just a matter of time. But it's not so easy to find an award for the early part of the battle, and part of the reason that not many people on the Russian side who took part in the early part of the battle and did so well that they earned an award survived. The casualties were horrendous on the Soviet side, much worse than on the German.
And this man survived.
Well, Soviet Red Army took something like 1.5 million to 2 million casualties in the Stalingrad campaign. So you can imagine what were the chances, especially for people that were fighting at close quarters, infantry, close support artillery, aviators. They didn't have very much of a survival chance.
Wow.
If they were in the early part of Stalingrad. And this fellow commanded artillery of a motorized brigade. And when I saw motorized brigade, it clicked. There were not so many motorized rifle brigades in the Red Army at that time. This was obviously an elite unit. And it also said at the time when the award was issued, it was bestowed by the 1st Guards Tank Corps. And 1st Guards Tank Corps was a very distinguished unit. And it wasn't called so during the Battle of Stalingrad. During the Battle of Stalingrad, it was 26th Tank Corps. It became promoted to Guards for its performance in the Battle of Stalingrad. This fellow was one of the people in that corps that made it possible. And if you look at any history of Second World War that goes in any kind of detail in describing the Battle of Stalingrad, more than just in passing, more than just cursory explanation of what went on, you will always see a mentioning of what 26th Tank Corps did. And that was capture of Kalach-on-Don. And capture of Kalach-on-Don, you could say, was the most dramatic and pivotal event of the entire battle. That was when the 26th Tank Corps was put into breach, which was created by the Soviet Southwestern Front, and it was their right flank for the Soviets, or right pincer movement for the Soviets. Later, it was followed by the pincer movement. Day later, pincer movement from the left, from the southern sector, by the Stalingrad front, and they met in the area of Kalach-on-Don. But Kalach itself, the little village at that time, a little town now, was important because it controlled the main river crossing over the Don River. And if you know how the map looks of that area, that's where the Volga River, the most important, you could say, Russian river, and at least in the European part of Russia, and the Don River come the closest. So it was a very important location that needed to be controlled in order to go farther, to get to Stalingrad, which is located on the Volga River. You needed supplies over the Don. And Volga is a humongous river, and it's, at least by length, it flows over the entire Russia. It starts in the north, from Valdai Hills or nearby, and it goes, kind of makes a huge arc around Moscow, sweeps east, and then it continues southward and makes another turn and goes sort of west. And the most westerly point on the southern end of it, where it comes closer to the estuary and flows into the Caspian Sea, that's the location that was of extreme importance, and that's where Stalingrad is, in close proximity to the Don. It's much to the south, and that's where most dramatic events were happening. That's why Stalingrad was important, because that's where Germans were hoping to cut off the oil flow from the Caucasus and supplies that were coming from the Caucasus, and eventually occupy Caucasus and make the resistance impossible.
Wow.
Because they would at that point envelope Moscow and make it fairly easy to either isolate it or finally capture it. That would be the next stage. So Stalingrad was important, but to control Stalingrad, to own Stalingrad, you needed this bridge in Kalach and Don. So the future first Guards mechanized tank corps, and at that point 26 tank corps rushed forward, pretended that they were Germans, a group of just several tanks and a couple of armored personnel carriers, drove straight to the bridge with their headlights blazing in full view of the Germans, and just took possession of the bridge to the astonishment of everybody. And when the Germans contracted, they created a hedgehog, and they defended that bridge for a couple of days against constant German attacks, because at that point it was clear to the Germans what was happening. They were attacked on both flanks, and they were about to lose their lifeline to Stalingrad. So it was an extremely intense battle. This fellow that we are discussing, who got that Order of the Red Banner eventually for this battle, was one of these people. He made it possible by providing artillery support for the infantry that captured the town of Kalach. So while tanks were holding the bridge, there was chaos and all kinds of close quarters fighting happening inside the city and on the outskirts. He was responsible for making it possible. For the infantry. They were opening fire at a very close range. They were firing in one place, and the commendation says that they were firing over open sights at a distance of just 1 kilometer. 1 kilometer, that's 0.6 miles or so. So almost point blank.
Wow.
Then 2 days after Kalach itself was captured, you could say on the last day of the most intensive part of counteroffensive, by November 25, it was all over pretty much. The trap had sprung, and Germans were trapped inside the city. On the 25th, he was protecting the flank of his corps from apparently German or possibly Albanian, but most likely German counterattacks. And he was personally commanding a squadron of Katyusha rocket launchers. And while doing so, he was wounded. Now, interesting thing is he was recommended for the award, but not for a Red Banner. He was recommended for a very humble award. He was a major at that time, of Medal for Valor. And Medal for Valor would be extremely uncommon medal for an officer. Typically, an officer would expect something higher than that. Medal for Valor was an award for a humble enlisted man or NCO, but lo and behold, he was recommended for a Medal for Valor, and that was that. Instead of approving it, it was elevated in rank by his next in charge. And that's very unusual, at least at that stage in the war, to see a award not downgraded, that happened often, but actually upgraded to a next level. It was upgraded to Order of the Red Star. And then the most incredible thing happened. There was no decision for a couple of months. The Battle of Stalingrad was over. And then in March of 1943, couple of months after it was all done, he receives Order of the Red Banner. Apparently somebody on the level of the front or army looked into his file, realized what he has done, and said, no, we can't just give red stuff on this. So he was eventually awarded this Order of the Red Banner, and this is what we have.
Wow.
And if I show it to you, it looks like any red banner.
Yes.
Screw back. Of course, it's a screw back. Of course, it's an early type. Of course, it's nice to have one like this, not the later version. But by just looking at it, you won't notice anything special. Its condition is not bad for a Type 1 screw back red banner.
Yes.
But it's nothing fantastic. Check it out.
Yes.
You see this nice
yes.
patina and how it's lighter in the center, where it was covered by screw plate. See this red residue?
That's right.
This is very common for original screw posts.
Yep.
So when you see that, that's a very good sign.
We like to see that.
Because that was a part of a technological process. This is just a residue that remained after they put the screw post in.
Yes.
And here,
nice condition.
enamel is damaged, but there are no repairs, and that I much prefer to repair pieces.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. No, it's
And
common.
it's kind of organic. You see how it's patinated where
Yes,
it's chipped,
yes.
because that's how it has been for a
Very
long
decent
time.
overall.
Yep, very, very attractive piece. in my
We
opinion.
expect to see damage like that.
Yeah, the Soviet wars were worn in battle many
They were worn,
oftentimes,
exactly.
and definitely worn on many occasions
Uh,
by their recipients.
it would be safe to say that this was worn during Stalingrad.
After, because he got it
Oh,
only,
afterwards, yeah.
the award decision came
It was
later
upgraded.
in
Yeah,
1943.
Okay.
So no, but he could wear it in Kursk, he could wear it later
Oh,
on. We
okay.
don't know exactly what he did. My feeling is that because of his combat injury, he was later serving in non-combat roles, because his later awards are all length of service. He did get a lot of awards, and he stayed in the military for a long time. But if you look at his file,
Yes.
you will notice that all of those later awards are length of service.
Length of service awards. Yes.
He did get one piece earlier, before Stalingrad. Here's his list of decorations,
Okay.
and you can see that here's the red banner that I'm talking about,
I see.
22 March 1943.
I see.
But the rest of them, the ones he got later, Combat Service, Order of Red Star, another Order of Red Banner, Order of Lenin, they are all, even if they are wartime, they are like Combat Service is wartime, but it's definitely a length of service. And all the rest of them, I guarantee you, are length of service. Which means that he probably wasn't in combat, or at least in very dangerous areas afterwards. And I guess, and I can only guess, is that's because of his wound that he suffered at Stalingrad.
Very nice.
But very, very much a combat officer. He got a combat service medal earlier, and again, this is curiosity because he was an officer already at that time. He was already a major. He was in the Red Army since early 1930s, and had a pretty high rank already at the time when the war started. His first medal was earned in defending Leningrad when he was in Volkhov, and he played with his artillerymen. At that time, he was chief of staff of an artillery regiment, played a very important role in protecting Volkhov. And Volkhov is a city not far from Leningrad. It's to the east, and it's right next to the big lake. And if you look at the lake, at the map of Leningrad, on one side there is Baltic Sea, there's Gulf of Finland, and farther west Baltic Sea, and on the other side there is Ladoga Lake. And Germans were trying to strangle Stalingrad completely by cutting all overland routes and any approaches to the cities. And they succeeded in almost all of their goals, except where they could not control the eastern side of Lake Ladoga. So they had a little part of it right near near Leningrad, and they captured a very important little town farther east and a little bit to the south, which was a railway hub. So if Russians had any hope of holding Leningrad, they would need to have that railway station to bring supplies at least closer to the city, and from there try to ferry them over the lake. And in the winter, they actually succeeded in that by putting this over the ice route that was called the Road of Life, and it made it possible for Leningrad to survive. But in order to do that, the railway station of Tikhvin, was of utmost importance, and this is what this fellow, which is artilleryman, was instrumental in. He, in November, November, especially of 1941, they fought very valiantly there, and especially near Volkhov. There were several pivotal villages that changed hands several times, and eventually they exhausted the German troops in that area and were able to retake Tikhvin, and that's what saved Leningrad. It was still a huge tragedy, and a huge number of civilians died of hunger or bombardment inside the city, but at least the city was held ultimately because of what they did. He was one of the men that made it possible. So he was in two very different battles at very different times, but both very pivotal. He played a very important role in holding Leningrad, believe it or not, and got a very low decoration for that, just a medal for combat service. And then Order of Red Banner for the major part of the Battle of Stalingrad, the most, you could say, the most dramatic one. The capture of Kalach really doomed the Germans. Otherwise, if they held it, who knows how the battle could go.
Right, right. Wow. Absolutely fascinating.
So here's your piece of history.
That's beautiful.
Stalingrad, so we had Stalingrad map,
Yes.
and we have an order, a decoration that was for basically trapping Germans in Stalingrad.
Oh, fantastic.
1942.
All right. Thank you, Igor. Excellent presentation as always.
Thank you.
Ciao, Louis.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. It's thank you.
I'm
Thank you for helping
Like
out.
I'm back in college.
I hope it's not as boring.
No.
And
Absolutely.
I don't give grades.
Absolutely. With Uncle Joe here, I see he approved. Very
Yeah,
good.
this Uncle Joe is an interesting Uncle Joe. You don't see them in this size usually.
Now tell me about Uncle Joe.
Well, it's by a very good, you could say, the best porcelain maker that Soviets ever had.
Oh, yes.
Leningrad Porcelain Factory, Lomonosov
Yes.
porcelain.
Is that the
And look at the date, 1947.
Oh,
it's also by
yes.
two the original cast was created by two very famous Soviet sculptors, Bogolyubov and Ingal. And you find busts of Stalin that are very similar, that are a little bit later,
Yes.
from the late 40s, early 50s, by the same sculptors, but they're smaller. They're about this size.
Yes.
This is the first one in a very, very long time that I can recall. In fact, the first one I can recall that we had in this size and in this fantastic condition.
Oh, it's a beauty. I mean, nice big mustache there. And
Yeah, everything
the
is there.
size, the condition,
And,
no damage at all. I see.
His hero star.
No damage, right? Wow.
Nope. And
amazing.
notice he is wearing hero of socialist labor. It's not, if you look at the proportions, it's not the thick hero stuff that was military. It's hero of socialist labor. This is the only decoration that he would actually wear in real life. Even though he was technically awarded with the hero star for the military, for the military feats, he refused to wear.
That's right.
His only decoration that he actually wore routinely was just like this one, hero star for socialist labor.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Hammer and
yes.
sickle.
That's right. That's right.
Gold star of hammer and sickle.
Because if it was the hero star, there would not be the hammer and sickle in the middle.
That's right, and it's also a little thicker. This one
Yep.
is more slender.
Yes.
The arms, that is.
That's it. Wow, this is a beauty. Absolutely beauty. And of course, it's a little hollow inside, right?
Oh yeah,
Yep.
of course.
Otherwise, it would weigh a ton.
Yeah, of course.
Wow.
There's a hole somewhere. Yeah,
And
here,
of course.
here,
And of
here.
course, Atlantic Crossroads does shipping worldwide.
Oh, absolutely. We can even
Yes.
ship this monster
Yes.
any place.
Yeah. Oh,
not a problem.
This is just very well made. I mean,
Yeah, details are
amazing.
fantastic. Yep.
oh yeah.
And the
yeah,
porcelain, you see how white it is. Just wonderful
yeah,
quality.
Yeah. Absolutely. The color, fantastic. A must-have. Absolutely a must-have.
Yeah, that would be a great decoration for a collecting room.
Yeah. Now, if
Imagine
you
this,
estimate,
it's a centerpiece, really.
How many would have been made?
We don't know, but you know, however many were made is irrelevant because most of them were later destroyed, like everything associated with Stalin.
Smashed.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this kind of thing would be in some official establishment.
Right.
It wouldn't be at somebody's home.
Oh.
It would be displayed,
right.
in a special place
Yes.
at the Communist Party committee,
Yes.
or maybe at a major university, or
Something
something like
official,
that.
yes.
Something official, and that officials wouldn't dare to keep a bust of Stalin after Stalin became a person
Right.
non grata.
The pariah, yeah.
pariah.
That's right.
So during the Khrushchev era, something like this would be destroyed almost invariably. So it's
That's
a miracle
beautiful.
this would survive.
That's beautiful.
Somebody took a risk by hiding it somewhere in the, in the basement or attic,
Oh, yes.
forgetting somehow
Right,
to just destroy it as he was ordered.
And I can see that you have your usual top-end items. We got the Order of Lenin, and also we have the first class, Order of Glory.
Yes,
Very, very underappreciated.
but if you want to speak of something underappreciated, look at this.
Okay.
This is an Order of Glory second class. You wouldn't give it a second look if you saw it just from the front.
Yes.
And this is why I flipped it.
Yes.
You see what's different about it? The border around the reverse.
Oh my God. Yes.
Let's put a regular Order of Glory,
Yes.
third or second class, it doesn't matter.
Do a little compare and contrasting.
This is how they all look.
Oh my God. That is
The only difference would be a
Yes.
significant difference anyway.
Yes,
Would be a
yes.
serial number. It can be lower, it can be higher, but even on the Glory second class, the reverse would look just like this. Otherwise.
Wow.
Well, not only the serial number is extremely low, but it's a different type altogether. There
Okay.
were fewer than 1,000 of these made, and they're extraordinarily rare.
Wow.
Because who knows how many were subsequently lost and
Yes.
scrapped,
No,
whatnot.
we love variations as
Another interesting point about this guy who earned it, not only he got Order of Glory third class and second class extremely early in 1943. Now, this order was only established in 1943, so you very rarely, if ever, see any of them awarded in 1943. And it's almost incredible that he got both third and second class within a very short time, immediately after the Declaration was even established. So he was one of the first recipients of both. But on top of that, he somehow managed to get Order of Glory first class. He was a full cavalier.
No kidding.
So this guy was quite a soldier, quite
And
a
we're
hero.
talking about the number of first classes eventually ordered was
Well, something like 3,000 or thereabouts, but there were far
3,000
fewer of
only.
this. So this thing is about 3 times as rare as Order of Glory first class.
Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. And this is on your website?
This is not on the website here, but it. Oh, actually, no. We just posted it. We just posted it. Just
okay.
posted it on the
Okay.
website.
So check it out, guys.
Literally a couple of days ago.
Yes, yes. And the odds are it's going to be sold very soon.
I sure hope so, but,
Yeah. No,
but you still have a chance.
A lot of
Absolutely.
the top items they disappear. They don't stay on the website long. Beautiful.
You see, there's still a little bit of gilt left.
Oh,
I like
yeah.
to see it this way.
Oh yeah.
Often
yeah.
it's completely worn out, or sometimes it's redone and it looks very tacky
Oh, it looks
when it's
amazing.
new gilt. But this is original gilt.
Super,
That's second class
super
should have.
duper rare right here.
Original suspension, or at least old suspension.
Oh yeah. Super rare. Super
Wartime
rare.
suspension.
Beautiful.
And of course, very low serial number that speaks for itself.
How can you
The
beat
guy
it?
was anti-tank artilleryman. Those were typically volunteers. People, not necessarily that they would volunteer for the Red Army, but when they created anti-tank specific purpose made anti-tank artillery units, they called them exterminating. Not just anti-tank, but
And you had to be a
anti-tank.
volunteer.
Yes, you would. Typically, they would get their staff, their personnel from volunteers. You would have to volunteer for that role because it was almost suicidal. It was
Yeah,
one of the
right.
most dangerous tasks.
So go up against
what
a tank.
you think of
Yeah.
to be with a relatively small anti-tank gun, not somewhere far,
Yep.
firing
You gotta get up close.
over close sights
Yep.
at a target, 10 kilometers or miles away.
Yes.
But actually being there facing the panzers.
And they're well protected by Panzer Grenadiers. Absolutely.
Exactly,
Yep,
exactly.
yep.
So very, very
Hazardous.
dangerous task.
Hazardous.
They were considered on par with guards units. They had the
Oh.
same status in the
Oh.
Red Army as guards. It was always mentioned in any officer, if an officer served with anti-tank unit, that was very special and he would get promotion. It would definitely be mentioned on his record. And they even got better rations than average Red Army men
Okay.
because it was such a dangerous task.
Yes.
And this guy, he did quite a lot of damage. The second class, for example, he destroyed 2 tanks.
Wow.
And that was quite a task.
Quite a feat.
Yeah.
Not many people know this.
Yeah.
Nope. They just take it for granted that, there's just a regular soldier out there.
No,
their
anti-tank
thing. No,
artillery
no.
especially. And
Volunteers.
actually, just being a Red Army soldier, your chances of survival
It's bad enough.
were probably 1 out of 10. But is getting home not maimed,
Yeah.
with all your limbs still attached.
Yeah.
It was a very, very hard war on an enlisted man especially.
Yeah,
For Red Army soldiers, it was a slaughter.
And PTSD is guaranteed.
I would
the
think so.
psychological
Yeah, I would
effect.
think that's, when people think about alcoholism, a lot of it is a result
Right.
of the stress
Right.
suffered during
Why
the war.
the alcoholism,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I've seen it firsthand. I mean,
Yep.
I knew
From the
people who
veterans.
went through the war,
Yeah.
veterans, and they couldn't exist without vodka, without a shot,
Right.
because of what they've seen.
There's nothing to laugh about.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
It was
quite
so
tragic.
stressful. My grandfather refused to talk about it. I had to squeeze it out of him by a drop, literally. He didn't want to talk about the war at all. He went through the entire war, and that was traumatic experience for sure.
Yeah.
One thing he told me though that was kind of curious, and I was almost shocked to hear that. He had a lot of respect for the German soldier. He said they are outstanding fighters.
Right.
They were outstanding fighters. He had no respect for Romanian soldiers, sorry to say.
Okay.
And he faced them too because he fought in the southern sector. But he said Germans were quite,
Gained his respect.
yeah,
Wow.
quite soldiers.
Well, God rest his soul in heaven. God bless. All right, Igor. That's fantastic. What a show. And you shall be attending the next show.
Oh, of course, as always. Now,
Yeah.
this next one will be in a different hall, still in the same location,
Yes.
as you know, but
And a little bit earlier
yeah,
during the year
relocation,
than normal, right?
Yeah, January, so we'll
Yeah,
have to brave the
January.
elements. But what is
Yes.
weather compared to what these guys went through? So,
That's right, yes.
No
And,
worries.
of course, you'll be setting up at the Mac Show,
of course, as always, in September.
September.
Yep.
Yep. And it's going to be another beautiful show. Record attendance, folks. Record
Yeah,
attendance.
yeah, it was packed.
A lot of young folks.
This morning,
a lot of
people
energy.
were kind of jostling to get to a table.
That's right. Oh, the lines were bananas out there this
Yep.
morning. All right, Igor, thank you very much.
Janda, thank you.
As
It's a
usual,
pleasure.
Professor.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for the education.
Oh, my pleasure. What little I can do.